Hello everyone, this is Red Dude. Why did you cheat on your partner? NSFW. So simply put, she cheated on me, so I cheated back. Age when story started, 22, age now 30. The story gets a lot more dramatic. I worked as a pizza delivery guy at the time. I came home from work one day with chocolates and flowers for her. We had been together for 5 years at this point, and she was screwing another guy in our bed. As soon as I entered my apartment and heard sex noises, I knew. I snuck into the frame of my bedroom door and witnessed the act with my own 2 eyes. They never even noticed I was there. I was so hurt by the situation, which I should have confronted head on, that I left my own house and went to my buddy's house and smoked a blunt. He told me I should let her know I caught her and see how she reacted, but I didn't. I was just trying to rationalize what I did wrong a lot. Several hours later I returned home, gave her the chocolate and flowers, and continued like nothing was wrong. I was a fool. Needless to say, she got ready for her job, which was a night shift security guard, and left around 7 p.m. I sat there for several hours crying after she left. Around 10 p.m. our roommate called and asked if I could come up to her job and see what was going on with her car. The roommate is also my significant other's best friend. I went up there, figured out the issue with that Pose car, and got her back to the house. The battery cable was messed up, if anyone was wondering. After the roommate got home, she cooked dinner spaghetti and garlic bread. I ate and sat on the couch. I proceeded to stay on that couch, knowing what had occurred in my bed during the day. About 3 a.m. I had the biggest emotional breakdown. I began crying to the point I could no longer breathe. As I sat in the dark crying, the roommate came and sat down beside me, pulled my head into her lap and rubbed my head. I'm not quite sure how long we stayed there like that, but I eventually fell asleep. I woke up the following day on the couch with my significant other waking me up. I proceeded to go through this day as well, holding in my emotions, like an idiot. After she left for work again around 7 p.m., I just sat there for hours. Eventually that evening I wrote a letter addressing my feelings and the cheating. It was about 3 pages long. The roommate came in shortly after 10 p.m. and did her evening routine, showering and all that. What happened next surprised me. As I lay on the couch, she came and began to talk to me. She stated she could tell something was wrong. So I told her about the cheating that I had witnessed and all that. I think she was in utter shock because she didn't say anything for like 10 minutes after I told her. This next part is the most shocking because I wasn't expecting it. It also should have been a huge red flag. The roommate asked me, "Do you wanna fuck me?" to get back at her. I never answered yes, I just jumped on her. We did many different things that night. I also had a new experience with girls who like to be choked. So here is the part where shit goes down. Still not the craziest part, bear that in mind. I fell asleep on the couch after that night, only to be woken up by arguing around 7 a.m. My significant other had gotten home, and her and the roommate were arguing. The roommate confronted my so about cheating. The words that came out of the roommate's mouth next were stupid. "That's why I let your man fill me up while you were working, bitch." Well, that is exactly what happened. The fight carried on with me trying to break it up. To no avail. Entry was then made by 2 cops. Found out later that the neighbors called because they could hear it. Roommate got tossed, so got tackled. Both of them went to jail. Several hours later the roommate returned after her mother bonded her out. She told me we would talk about this situation later and left for work. My significant other then came by with her sister and dad around 11 p.m. that night and packed all her clothes and other property. I also had her take the bed because I didn't want it. She left that evening, only saying, "I guess you know him breaking up with you." I just shook my head yay, and she left. So we're gonna fast forward a little to about 8 months later. Little tidbit: roommate got pregnant from our one night stand. The roommate was also still staying with me still. Roommate goes into labor. I take her to the hospital, and after 14 glorious hours of labor, we welcomed our beautiful daughter into this world. After my daughter was born I went outside to smoke a cigarette, and across the parking lot I noticed someone who looks quite familiar loading a baby in a pickup truck. I was about 400 feet across a parking lot. At night, I shrugged it off, sure I was overanalyzing the situation. I had myself convinced it wasn't my ex. Well, I was wrong. About 3 months later I get served with some civil paperwork from an attorney requesting I submit to a paternity test. After looking through all the paperwork with an attorney of my own, he was able to provide me with a date the child was born, which was a day before my daughter's birth. I knew then I did see her at the hospital that day. I took the paternity test. I was indeed the father after a lengthy child custody case. I pay $420 a month in child support and get my son 2 weekends out of the month. I'm also married to the roommate and have a 7-year-old daughter and son now. I did indeed feel like a piece of shit how that whole incident unfolded. But I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. A little advice: communication in a relationship is key. Also, if you don't want no babies, use protection. Although don't cheat, it's just not good. If you like this type of content, consider subscribing. Did the same. Revenge: cheated after she had an affair and felt terrible after because to cheat on her, I first had to cheat my own values. It's not worth it. Because I truly had no idea what a healthy or functional relationship looked like. My parents were married for almost 30 years and had already started the cycle of cheating on each other well before I was born. My grandma used to tell me stories of being friends with my grandpa's girlfriends because she just wasn't toxic and jealous like other women. In the relationship where I cheated, I was being treated like garbage, financially supporting us both, even though I was 10 years younger and a waitress, enduring a lot of abuse from a very broken man. I felt trapped in the same cycle I had watched my mom and my grandma live. I didn't really know better. The guy at work started paying attention to me, and I loved it. He was sweet and poetic and romantic, committed to helping his sister raise his niece, was out of the house and working instead of drinking my paycheck away and punching holes in my walls. The little harmless work flirting quickly escalated, and before I knew it, I was having a whole ass affair. I started to prepare myself to leave my boyfriend for my affair partner when I found out that my boyfriend had been cheating on me with anyone he could find on Craigslist, including stealing money from me to pay sex workers. Any guilt I felt for cheating evaporated right then. I threw all my clothes in a trash bag and drove to my affair partner's house, ready to start our new life together. He had another girl over, basically admitted that a lot of what he had said to me was because he thought I would never leave. All in all, it was a mess. If you're unhappy in your relationship, do the work that will either fix it or get you out. That new person is flawed too, they won't fix you or fulfill you, only you can do that. If you have any similar stories, tell us in the comments. Because I wasn't over my ex and when she came knocking I didn't value my new relationship enough and crossed a line I never will lower myself to cross again. You feel like shit for years after it, really not worth it, no matter how you try to justify it to yourself at the time. It's considered cheating in my case, but things led up to it which caused the incident. We were on the 4-year mark and I was busy with a 9-5 in school. This didn't leave me much time aside from exercising and trying to make time for her. She liked to drink, but near the end it got so bad. Communication prior to this was great, but seemed toxic when she started drinking, heavily being out all night, which led me despising her and not caring anymore. Knowing we were still in a relationship, I still made effort to talk, make time for her. It wasn't reciprocated and seemed like she didn't care to try. There would be points where I'd text her and she wouldn't reply back for 8 to 9+ hours or in some instances, days. By the end it seemed normal to me and made me believe that everyone would treat me like that. But the stress of all that I was doing made me gain weight and with her neglect, undesirable. At some point, I decided to focus on myself, and this was while we were still together, kind of like we weren't together, but we're still in a relationship. I started going out with friends, meeting new people. It was during this period I met someone and we clicked. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but along with other people, her and I exchanged numbers. Whenever we exchanged messages, she responded instantly and seemed like she wanted to talk to me. This was still while my then GF was being aloof, ignorant towards me. You guys can figure out where this is going. Regarding my GF at the time, I guess she got heavily intoxicated. One night I received a phone call around 2 to 3 a.m. When I answered, a guy was talking, told me him and his friends found her passed out in the bar and called me after unlocking her phone. I went and got her and broke up with her couple days after. Insecurity, poor self-image, and an inability to put aside morals in exchange for stroking my ego. I was bullied all throughout school, depressed, angry, so after school when I started actually getting attention from women, I went nuts. My ego was exploding. I'd lie about where I was going, delete text messages, have alternate accounts, etc. etc. I thought I was sly, I wasn't. She knew they always find out. I've changed a lot since, and thankfully we're still together, but it hasn't been without its trials and tribulations. There are times I see the hurt in her eyes and I wish I could take it all back, but at the same time, I really don't think I'd be where I'm at as a person today if it weren't for that experience. It took a lot for me to realize just what type of person I actually was, and I woke up one morning looking in the mirror and didn't like the person who was staring back at me. It was like an out-of-body experience where I didn't recognize myself, but I knew I hated what I was looking at. It's taken a lot, and I make sure I tell her every day that I love her, that I'll forever be hers for as long as she'll have me, but if she were to tell me tomorrow that she's done, I wouldn't hold it against her. She's my best friend, she's helped me grow as a person and been way more patient than she had to be, and I wish I could take what I know now, go back in time, and start all over, just so she wouldn't have that hurt and that doubt that I know is eating away in the back of her mind. She doesn't deserve it. Thanks for watching, this was Red Dude. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to check out my other content.